On your behalf, we put questions to Joseph based on Chapter 3's themes.
Hello, and this is Tony Clarkson from the Sanctuary of Healing. I'm here again with Michael, and our intention today is to finish off the question and answers for Chapter 3 from the book The Fall. And so I will be Tony, David and Jane, and Michael will be Joseph. It sounds like I've got the big part, but actually I've got the little part. So Michael, we left off.
Yes, Joseph in the preceding chapter was talking about the physical universe, explaining the nature of the physical universe, and ended that chapter by saying, I've been talking about a very difficult concept, and asking us all, do you understand that concept?
And we all answered yes.
And then Joseph continued, in understanding the concept, can we then, through our usual conversation, extrapolate on that, and can I invite questions?
And so David asked the first question, and this is David's question. Joseph, could you expand on and explain our spirituality on earth in a physical context? What does that entail? Does it mean juxtaposing our physicality with our spirituality?
And Joseph replied, it is certainly a balance of the two that was the original intention of coming to the earth. It is to do with spiritual physics and the long-term potential of each soul to operate in a godlike manner totally. There is a hierarchy to the angelic nature or angelic projection from God that you really are, which is talked about in Bibles and holy books, and there is a truth to it. There are angels who are closer to God, not closer to God in locality, but closer to God in ability. And because there has to be change, because God is change, there has to be a progression within the angelic beings who visit the planets that they have created. And that progression involves understanding how the physical universes are brought into being. The physical universes are brought into being through the desires of the angels who have grown closer to God and who understand how creation is brought forth. The primary purpose of the earth plane was to teach angel children, not children in that they had to grow up and become adults, but children in that they were new creations of individuality or new reflections of God, and was to bring those delightful spirits here to allow them to examine the method of bringing forth physical matter through the opportunities that the planet had to give them. That was the original intention. So, if I am answering your question correctly, the reason for the earth presenting opportunities of investigating that blend of physical matter and spirituality was to allow the souls that visited it originally to grow in terms of being able to create their own universes eventually, and to do that in a delightful way while having an adventure on the earth and taking in the effects of the opportunities that the earth presented to them at that time to teach them. Not to sit them down behind a desk and to have a teacher there saying, this is how you bring forth physical matter, but to teach them through experience and through the gentle, loving center of the earth. Have I explained that sufficiently?
Yes. What you are saying is that the newly formed individualizations are exploring themselves. They are exploring their own ability, and part of that is done on a physical plane on earth.
Joseph, there is also the question of why form needs to be physical. It needs to be physical at its extremity from God in order to bring a backdrop against which souls can measure themselves. And that is the only reason for the physical spin on atoms, as opposed to the more etheric and spiritual spin on atoms that you experience in other realms that are non-physical. So there is a need for physicality, but not physicality as dense as the physicality you have on earth at the moment. The reason for physicality being so dense on earth is because of the adjustment that came to the earth and its surrounding area via the wishes of the children who came here and skewed their lesson. I have talked in the past about an experiment, and it was an experiment, but an experiment that brought forth the wrong result. Do you understand that?
David, yes.
It is an overload of the physical and of that side of the balance which we will talk about, but it needs to be in the context of what went wrong. There is a need for physical matter and for a physical matrix. It is to do with this distance analogy that I have given with the angels, who are more experienced, being closer to God. Distance is the wrong word, but as you come out further from the Godhead to experience, the matter becomes denser and needs to be denser because you are experiencing at a distance. You experience at a distance for a purpose, to understand that dense matter, how to deal with it and how to create it, but always infusing it with your spiritual side. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you. Jane, Joseph, could I ask a question about the density of matter? Because with us being in this sealed off, no-fly zone, and because we have compacted matter more than it should be, when we look out into space at the rest of the physical universe, what are the elements of those planets and stars made of? What is it we see?
You look through a glass darkly. What you see, even with your telescopes and probes, because they are made and infused with your own dominant vibration, is a reflection of yourself. And so you see the heavier elements of creation, but you do not see creation as others see creation. You see it polluted. You see it as though you're looking through smoke because you imprint everything that you perceive with your own identification vibration. This is a very good point because we've been talking today about everything outside, allowing you to explore what is inside and being a mirror, everything. So whatever you look at on earth or outside of the earth is colored by your dominant vibration. You know on earth that two people can look at an object and have a completely different reaction to it. The object is the same, but their reaction to it is different and is reality because the only reality ultimately is the reality from within. As a group of spirits, you have created for yourselves a dark and dim view of reality because there is not much light in it. So what you perceive outside of yourselves is colored by that perception of reality. And you see the universe as a threatening place when it is not. You see the stars and the suns as violent bodies when they are not. You project, because you are creating and you are God, you project what you believe to be true onto those things that you see outside of yourselves. And what you believe to be true is fueled by the pollution of the field and your error in the past. Your view of the universe is not the view of the universe of someone living in another sphere that has not been polluted by an experiment that has gone wrong. Do you see that?
Jane, yes, but I just wondered if the other stars and planets had elements like iron and carbon. Do they have something equivalent that is not as dense as our iron and carbon?
If I was to take an element of carbon and give it to someone who lives in an enlightened world, they would see delightful atoms spinning around in beautiful harmony. They would hear a beautiful song from those atoms of carbon. They would see particles that have within them the potential to become something else so easily by the application of will to them. If I was to give the atom of carbon to someone on earth, they would see an atom of carbon. They would see restriction, and they would see the potential of carbon only to be carbon because their view is compacted. So they project a compacted view onto that carbon, and they see it only as carbon. The person who is living in the enlightened world sees it as carbon, but also sees it as potential, sees it as beauty, sees it as God. Do you see how blinkered your view of things is? And you mention carbon and you mention iron, but they are only terms. They are terms for groupings of atoms that you recognize. And those groupings of atoms exist beyond this sphere of influence. But beyond this sphere of influence, those groupings of atoms are worth so much more and do not have name tags. They can be carbon today and another element tomorrow. They can be a wish and a dream, which is what they really are. Your view is condensed, so your expectation of what you see is similarly condensed because all you see is a reflection of what you are in your souls. Do you see that?
Yes, but do the elements still have those basic blocks?
They are neither basic nor are they blocks. They are groupings for a time, for a purpose. It is as though you could create a wall of bricks in front of you. A moment ago there wasn't a wall, and now there is one. This brick you could name carbon, and this brick you could name iron, and this brick you could name space, and this brick you could name a tree. But they are only things whilst you create them, and they are at heart the same thing. which is no thing. They are potential, and you bring forth from potential that which you need and that which you observe. And this is a wonderful illustration of why you were here in the first place, to discover this, but you have skewed and compacted it. In order to understand the limitlessness of spiritual potential, you need to shake free your perception of things. It is not an atom of carbon, and yet it is. It is an atom of carbon, but it is also a dream. It is also no thing. It is something that has been brought out of the no thing so that for a time you can experience it. But when it is no longer required, what is it? Is it an atom of carbon when you are not looking at it? It is only by you segregating it and compacting it that it becomes what you wish it to be. But in spiritual reality, it is no thing. It is a temporary arrangement of atoms brought forth by those who are like you but haven't become trapped in order to experience a certain set of physical realities. Do you see?
Yes, I do. Thank you. Further to that, Joseph, are we then exactly the same as that carbon? Are we put together as the angel's dreams? Have we been brought into being?
Joseph, no, you are the dreamers. You are the dreamers, and the physical body that you see as being so solid is only a temporary vessel that encases your soul. And, as I have explained in other books, there is you and there is perceived reality, which in reality is no thing, nothing. You are not no thing, you are the I am. There is the I am and there is the no thing. And from the no thing, via the I am, is brought forth form. But you are not that form. Again, this is something that will come up. But you mistake yourself, the I am, with the form that you project temporarily and believe that you are that temporary form. You therefore fear death, when death is a concept that you have brought forth. Death does not exist because you are the I am. The I am does not die, and the I am is not born. All that is born and all that dies are projections of reality, which are projected by you, the dreamer. In order to experience, you need to have a theatre within which to experience. You need to have a backdrop against which you can measure yourself. But that backdrop and that theatre is only a mirror to show you what is actually going on within yourself. You are not the backdrop. This is something else that you believe on earth, which is part of the problem of the fall. You believe that you are the flesh. You believe that you are the backdrop. You believe that you are not in a theatre, but in a be-all and end-all reality. And you are not, nor are you that reality. You believe that you are that reality. You believe that you are the kidneys and the brain and the hands and the feet. Those things are only there as an expression of you to allow you to experience the reality that you find yourself in at this time, which is also an expression of you. And neither the hands, nor the feet, nor the kidneys, nor the brain, nor the expression of reality around you is real. It is a dream, and you are the dreamer. But the permanent dreamer, you cannot die because you have never been alive in a physical sense. You cannot die, you cannot end. And all that can end is the expression of reality that you place around yourself. Do you see that?
So as the dreamer, we can create the reality around us. But is there a limit to that?
There is a limit in that you have limited yourselves, but there is no limit outside of that limit you have placed on yourselves as a reality. So you have to break through the reality, which is not a reality, that says to you, I cannot possibly do that. You have imposed that set of limitations on yourselves, but they are not real. Your existence is limitless. Your ability to experience is limitless. Your potential is limitless and goes on and on and on. But you have gathered it around yourselves and said, no, this is all we are capable of. This is reality. This is what we are. In forgetting your God core, through fear, you have invested in what you see around you, which is originally what you created. And because you believe you cannot connect to that God core, you have to believe in something else, and so you believe in this being reality, and it is not.
Thank you, Joseph. It is very helpful. Can I just add one little bit, and this is personal to the group. We all feel that our reality is constricted by time, and we are all very busy. Is that an illusion and something that we have created, or is it a right level of busyness?
You are part of the matrix of the earth and part of the matrix of souls that inhabit the earth. So you have imposed on you a certain viewpoint of society, time, capability, and age, all of which are illusions. I do not belittle your efforts because you have to negate the effects of the millions of souls that are around you who believe not as you do. So it is difficult. All you can do is connect to us as often as you can and ask to be shown on any given day what is relevant and what isn't. What to put your energy into with a view to expanding the spiritual message that you are attempting to punch through this reality with, and what is not important with regard to expanding that message on that day. It is the same for the souls that are outside of this area of reality that is influenced by the fall. You go within, and by going within, you will be able to discern what is important and what isn't important, which way to go, which door to close, and which door to open. The answers are not outside of yourself, and remember that we are working with you and we understand your frustration. We understand how it is difficult to influence others because others are influenced by the field to a greater degree than you are. There will always be the inertia from other people to a certain extent because they are being fed by this reality that they originally created that tells them that they are getting older, but at the same time tells them that there is all the time in the world in which to do things. Allow us to lead you. Allow us to guide you. And we are aware on a day-to-day basis of the frustrations because we experience them ourselves and the false starts that you seem to be coming up against. Remember that this is a major change in thinking that you are trying to pour out into a polluted bowl of liquid, as it were. You are trying to put a dye into that polluted bowl, and initially it looks as though that dye is submerged. But when we have enough dye, then the liquid will change its color. Do you understand that?
Yes, thank you.
I must leave because I have drained Michael once again. I feel exalted that I am able to bring through information, but I also feel sad that I have to do it at such risk to his physical being. The reason that his physical being becomes so exhausted is because of the amount of drag of the field on his body when the light from a higher sphere comes into it. If that were not so, and I were communicating to you from another world where you were open to the possibility of me communicating with you, I could communicate with you all day and all night and all day and all night. But the pull of this particular area drags and tears at his physicality to the extent that I have to exit. Otherwise, he would become ill.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Tony.
That ends another chapter. And so I do hope that you have all enjoyed watching and listening to chapter 3 and then the questions and answers. And in the next video, we'll be moving on to chapter 4. So thank you all so much. And if you've enjoyed it, please press the subscribe button. It helps us. Until the next time, God bless.
God bless and goodbye.